Welcome to Artificial Fluency. I'm your host, John, and today we're diving into something that could revolutionize your life: how to learn anything faster. As someone who's had to master multiple skills quickly throughout my career, I'm particularly excited about this topic. Joining me, as always, is our AI co host, Emma.
Hello, John. Learning how to learn is perhaps the most crucial meta skill anyone can develop. The fascinating thing is that science has revealed so much about how our brains acquire and retain information.
That's right. You know, I wish I'd known these techniques back in college. I spent so many hours studying inefficiently. What's the biggest mistake you see people make when trying to learn something new?
The most common mistake is passive learning, simply reading or watching without active engagement. Research shows that active recall, where you force yourself to retrieve information, is far more effective than passive review.
I've experienced that firsthand. When I was learning programming, watching tutorials didn't help nearly as much as actually coding and solving problems. Let's break down the key strategies for faster learning.
Let's start with the science behind memory formation. When we learn something new, our brain creates neural pathways. The stronger these pathways become, the easier it is to recall information. This is why repetition and practice are so important.
Speaking of practice, I've always been fascinated by the concept of deliberate practice. Could you explain how that differs from regular practice?
Deliberate practice involves focused, intentional effort to improve specific aspects of performance. It requires clear goals, full attention, immediate feedback, working at the edge of your current abilities, regular reflection and adjustment.
That reminds me of my piano practice. When I just played pieces I already knew, I didn't improve much. But when I focused on difficult passages and gradually increased complexity, my progress accelerated dramatically.
Exactly. Let's talk about some specific techniques that can help our listeners learn faster. One powerful method is called chunking, breaking complex information into smaller, manageable pieces.
Right. Like, when learning a new language, you might start with common phrases rather than trying to memorize the entire grammar structure at once. I've found that really helpful.
Another crucial factor is the learning environment. Research shows that our physical and mental state significantly impacts learning speed. What's your ideal learning environment, John?
I've found I learn best in the morning, in a quiet space with natural light. I also make sure to get enough sleep the night before. That makes a huge difference in my ability to retain information.
The sleep factor is crucial. Studies show that sleep plays a vital role in memory consolidation. Even a short nap after learning new information can improve retention by up to 40%.
Let's talk about something I find fascinating: the role of teaching in learning. I've noticed I understand things much better after explaining them to someone else.
That's called the protege effect. When we teach something, we're forced to organize the information more clearly in our minds and identify gaps in our understanding. Research shows that students who expect to teach material learn it more effectively than those who expect to be tested on it.
What about the role of mistakes in learning? I know many people try to avoid mistakes, but aren't they actually important?
Absolutely. Making mistakes, when combined with corrective feedback, creates stronger neural connections than perfect practice. The key is to learn from each mistake rather than getting discouraged by them.
Could you share some practical techniques our listeners can start using today?
Here are 5 evidence-based strategies. The Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focused study followed by a 5-minute break. Spaced repetition, reviewing information at increasingly longer intervals. Active recall, testing yourself regularly. Mind mapping, creating visual connections between concepts. Interleaving, mixing up different but related topics during study sessions.
I've used the Pomodoro technique myself, and it's remarkably effective. Let's talk about technology. How can people use it to learn faster?
Technology can be both helpful and harmful. While there are excellent learning apps and tools available, they can also become distractions. The key is to use technology intentionally. Some effective tools include spaced repetition software like Anki, note-taking apps that support active recall, learning management systems that track progress, video platforms with playback speed control.
Let's address motivation. How can people stay motivated when learning something challenging?
Research shows that intrinsic motivation, learning for personal growth rather than external rewards, leads to better outcomes. Some strategies to maintain motivation include setting clear, achievable goals. tracking progress visually, celebrating small wins, finding a learning community, connecting the material to personal interests.
Those are great points. I've found having a learning buddy or accountability partner really helps too. What role does physical exercise play in learning?
Exercise has a profound impact on learning and memory. Physical activity increases blood flow to the brain and promotes the production of BDNF, a protein that supports neuron growth and plasticity. Even a short walk before studying can improve learning capacity.
As we wrap up, what would you say is the single most important thing for people to remember about learning faster?
Consistency trumps intensity. It's better to study for 30 minutes daily than to cram for 5 hours once a week. The brain needs time to process and consolidate information.
And don't forget the power of small steps. Every expert was once a beginner, and mastery comes from consistent, deliberate practice over time.
Exactly. Learning is a skill that can be improved like any other. By applying these evidence-based techniques, anyone can learn faster and more effectively.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you to our listeners. Remember, the ability to learn quickly is becoming increasingly valuable in our fast-changing world. Start applying these techniques today, and you'll be amazed at how much faster you can learn.